Hey guys, Argent here with part 2 of the saga of ChrisChan. I'm putting out so many videos lately because I'm seeing a pretty good upswing in channel growth, and I want to keep the momentum growing. Also, just kind of a bit of insider thing. Ad revenue during Christmas is about 3 times what it normally is. So let's say it's roughly like $2 a thousand views normally. It's up to like $5 or $6 per thousand views at this time of year. So a lot of people push to get as many views as possible. But it is what it is, nothing I can do, but I digress. So on that topic, we're going to go through part 2. So I'm going to talk about the life of a professional NEET and try to get through somehow the first half of ChrisChan. I'm going to warn you now, this will probably be 4 videos. We did the introductory one where I kind of talked about the background and some of the Christorians who track everything ChrisChan has. This one's going to be about ChrisChan, like how he lives his daily life. Probably more towards the first half because things really change and get really weird later. As if they aren't already really weird, it's really going to ratchet it up to like, what's his name? David Lynch levels of strange. And we're done. Part 3 will probably be the last couple of years. And I don't really want to spoil anything for people who haven't read anything about this. And then part 4 will either be talking about stuff I missed in the previous parts, or talking about kind of the legacy of ChrisChan, what we can learn from it, and how it's kind of come to define the internet. So before we get into the actual sagas, I believe I left off the last one talking about high school. After high school, Chris went to a community college. I think it was Piedmont Community College. And he initially went there for marketing. Can you imagine ChrisChan and marketing? Jeez. But quickly after that, he decided to, I think he picked it at random. I think from my understanding, he opened up the book. I'm not sure how it works in America, but in Canada, when you go to university, like an information event, they give you a book that has all of their degree listings and a description of the courses. So I think he literally opened it, and the first page was marketing, and he picked that. His father convinced him to go take AutoCAD. So I think Bob, who's Chris's father, by the way, just a quick note, Chris's parents were really old when they had him. Forget if they were in their 40s, but that probably explains his autism. Bob Chandler, his father, was a rather successful engineer who worked for General Electric. And part of why ChrisChan's able to go with his bullshit for so long is he got a good pension from that. My understanding is he helped to design the machine that creates plastic water bottles. I forget if his mother did anything, but yeah, his father collects Social Security, maximum Social Security, and a good pension, so I assume the house also used to be paid off. His father decided to convince him to take AutoCAD or CAD-CAM, which is probably not a terrible choice, because ChrisChan obviously can't do a lot of things, but he seems to be able to use a computer maybe. So he went there to get his associate's degree. Now, I don't understand how the American college system works. I'm not really going to go into detail about that, but my understanding is an associate's degree in America is equivalent to a college diploma in Canada. And when I heard it and they said it took him 6 years to get it, that didn't really sound that long, but apparently an associate's diploma or whatever is only supposed to take 2 years max. But anyways, so he went there, and it was around this time that ChrisChan really started to become the person he is now. I mean, it was already there, but this is post-high school, so he doesn't interact with people anymore. So this is the origin, around the time that we come up with the love quest. The interesting thing about the love quest is it seems to be pretty universal around autistics. Most of the autistic people I know have some variant of the love quest. Don't ask me why. It is what it is. Nothing I can do, but I digress. The love quest is basically ChrisChan believes that his purpose in life is to find the perfect sweetheart, his soulmate, that he will marry and cherish. And once he finds her, everything else in his life will magically resolve itself like a movie. He kisses the girl and everything works out. And I think he often believes that not only will she do all the chores for him, not only will she bear his children, but she'll also work for him. And she'll bear his daughter, who he's named Crystal, after the illustrious metal. And Crystal is both his daughter and his sister and a sort of love interest in the comics. It's really weird. But kind of how we divide up Chris's saga is what girl he's pursuing. And all the girls are, of course, trolls, normally men pretending to be women. And these internet relationships can go on for months and sometimes years. And there's always a person in his love quest. When he was at Piedmont Community College, he had a attraction sign. So what ChrisChan does, and this is very similar to what Elliot Rogers would do, is he had this sign that says, "Looking for a boyfriend-free girl." That's what he calls single girls, boyfriend-free girls. It's like looking for a boyfriend, can't have tattoos, can't drink, has to be white, which is kind of based. But just a big list of things, and he would just go and stand at various parts on the campus holding it, waiting for women to come to him, which is really, really beta. Although, ironically, it might be kind of an impression given by media, because if men or women are the same, then women should approach men as often as men approach women, and they should propose to men as often as the inverse, which doesn't happen, but it is what it is. Nothing I can do, but I digress. So he was doing that, and this is where we get into Mary Lee Walsh. So Mary Lee Walsh and she called ChrisChan in, and she's like, "You can't be doing that. That's harassment. That's sexism. That makes women feel uncomfortable." And frankly, I'm okay with them like punishing or kicking ChrisChan off because he's a weirdo and a creep. So ChrisChan really couldn't take this, so he used for the first time the Curse Yameha, where he does the Kamehameha gesture, and he believes that he can put curses on people. He did that, and Mary Lee Walsh expelled him from it for a year, and he spent that entire year laying around his house. But Mary Lee Walsh is one of the great villains in his life, and she becomes one of the main villains of Sonichu. He's dressed like a devil. It's kind of funny because the actual woman's like some old, doesn't look very attractive, but in the comics, it's clear that for whatever reason, Chris fantasizes about her sexually, or some nonsense like that. That stuff happened, so he got sent home. So let's talk a bit more about ChrisChan's home life. Jeez, I'm almost 10 minutes in and I haven't even got into the sagas yet. Well, this may have to be like 4 parts. Like I said, guys, this is like 20 years of daily bullshit. How does ChrisChan spend his days? I think it's important when looking at ChrisChan to see how he spends his time and how he works. Because like I said, ChrisChan is the ultimate professional NEET. But yeah, just all the things we associate with NEETs, not working but getting money, spending all your money on pornography, video games, etc. So because ChrisChan has autism, he gets your taxpayers' money. Like I said, I'm not really against disability payments, but in ChrisChan's case, he obviously is scamming the system. So ChrisChan receives about $800 a month. Now, he lives at home and his parents pay for everything, so that $800 a month largely was going just for buying stuff for himself, toys, etc. Now, eventually what wound up happening was, despite that, he spent so much money at that. He stole from his parents. He stole their credit cards. He ran up thousands of dollars in debt, took all his credit cards, paid off his debts, and started taking a majority of his monthly tugboat or monthly disability payment to pay off the debts and for room and board. That reduced ChrisChan to $200 a month. Now, it's important to note that this is not intended to be welfare. This is not intended to fully support someone. 12 grand a year is not enough to support someone. What it's intended to do is it's for people who are incapable of doing like what I do, a white collar job, a proper blue collar job, etc. So like you work a minimum wage job, you maybe make, I don't know, 12 grand a year. I don't know exactly how it works in the States with each state's, etc. But between that and your monthly tugboat, you can kind of get through it. You can manage to survive at a low income level, but you're not starving on the streets. So if he was to work even 10, 20 hours a week, it would massively increase his income. I forget how much it is, but it's like, I think 15 grand you can make before they start to claw back any of the disability. So there's no reason why he couldn't work somewhat, except for the fact that he's a complete fuck up and no one would hire him. And once again, it has nothing to do with the fact he's disabled. It has to do with the fact that he's disgusting, entitled, and incapable of dealing with other people. So yeah, he gets NEET bucks. This is kind of like the origin of NEET bucks. For those of you who don't know, basically NEET bucks is the money that NEET somehow managed to get to pay for stuff. Sometimes it's from a easy job that's far below their education level. It's often from their parents, and sometimes it's gives me dat from the government. So what wound up happening is he continued to steal from his parents. He continued to get credit cards. Now this man has an atrociously bad credit rating, so the credit cards probably had absurdly high interest rates. So how does ChrisChan spend his money? Well, firstly, he has maxed out his iCoke rewards. We're generally pretty sure that he has he drinks a 2-liter bottle of straight Coke a day. Yes, not Diet Coke, not like Coke Zero, a 2-liter bottle of straight Coke Classic. And so he drinks that every day. He normally goes out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner to fast food, normally McDonald's. And so he has that. He spends, God knows how much that even costs to go there every meal of every day. I make probably like 3 times as, no, it's American money. So I make probably like, it doesn't matter, but I couldn't afford to do that. That would take up like all my extra money that I invest. After Chris's father wound up dying, he got $1,300 a month. So this guy is getting like 16, 17 grand a year for doing nothing. Once again, it's I don't begrudge having welfare for people who can't take care of themselves. But in ChrisChan's case, it's largely his entitlement. And you can see how it is. So ChrisChan spends his money on that. The main thing, probably one of the largest things he spends money on, is video games. It is estimated that ChrisChan has spent nearly, get ready for this, 30 grand on video games over his lifetime. Just think about that for a minute. 30 grand. I don't know how much I've spent in my lifetime. Maybe, it depends if you count consoles or not. If you don't count consoles, probably like $1,000. If you do count consoles, maybe like 1,500. It also depends whether or not you count my computer, which I use for a lot of other stuff and I needed for work. I needed a good computer for work, but yeah, that's 30 grand. And keep in mind, the money I spent on it was my own money that I earned through part-time jobs or full-time work, whereas all of Chris's money came from either stealing from people or from welfare. What he is probably the ultimate fanboy of Sony. So what he did once PlayStation Network started is he wanted to support Sony, so he buys everything on PSN. He even will buy DLC for games he doesn't own. So they release, like, I don't know, a map pack for Metal Gear Solid. He'll buy it, the map pack, but he won't buy the game. He'll also buy multiple copies of games, multiple copies of Sonic Boom. If something comes out for multi-console, he'll buy a copy for each. And this is just his video games. He spent even more on other stuff. So then we have Lego. ChrisChan is addicted to Lego because basically he creates these massive Lego structures and he lives in them. Well, he doesn't physically live in them, but he imagines that he is part of them. He had an entire model of Quickville that he believed that he lived in. And at one point, because he's obsessed with reliving high school, he made a full-size Lego model of Manchester High School, where he went to school. And he bought like dozens of sets to get all of the individual characters to remake everybody from his yearbook and all the teachers. And he would play with them and pretend that he was still in high school. Keep in mind, this was when this guy was 30 years old. The high school model cost him at least $1,000. Keep in mind, he would be buying Lego sets just for one character. Or because he needed one piece. He's too dumb to buy them separately. But, yeah, that's one of the models, using his shitty camera. And that's Quickville. That is what he built, and he would live in that. So that is how crazy that ChrisChan is. So he's addicted to Lego, so he spent In 1 year, he spent like 5 grand on Lego. That was 2 years ago, and it's probably up to 10 grand. So yeah, he spent probably a conservative estimate between video games and Lego. He's probably spent 40 grand on that over the course of his lifetime. Plus, he drinks a 2 liter of Coke a day. Plus, I don't think he's ever cooked anything. There's all kinds of other stuff. That's not counting toys. He buys immense amounts of like Transformers and stuff like that. Okay, so this video is just going to be about ChrisChan's life. I'm sorry, it's going to be difficult to get further than this. And then he also buys sex toys. He has several sex dolls. He tends to break them pretty quickly. Okay, everybody, earmuff the kids. You might want to skip this because this is really, really gross. He buys like dildos. They sticks up his ass. He buys anal beads. Mountains and mountains of pornography. The thing is, ChrisChan doesn't really understand how stuff works. So once he started buying bras, he would throw them out after using them once. He would stick the dildo up his ass before cleaning his ass, so he'd throw them out after he used them. ChrisChan is not known to have showered or bathed in years. Whenever he did a house tour, and when he did the house tour, see that the washrooms, the bath, like the tubs and showers had not been used in like years. So what he does is he just uses Axe body spray, and he just sprays himself constantly with it. Also, because ChrisChan eats a diet with no fiber in it, he can't control his bowels anymore, and he shits himself constantly. So because he shits himself constantly, he has started wearing diapers. He used to keep around all his shitting clothes, and he would show them to people on air. So let's see what else can I do to make you vomit. He drinks his own semen. He drinks his own semen by mixing it with Fanta. The idea being he wants to conserve all of it to ensure that he conceives once he finally meets his sweetheart. Let me see if I can find pictures of his house, because his parents and him are all hoarders. Tour of Chris's house. Let's just watch the video. Okay, let me just put the sound mixing on. If there's no audio, it doesn't really matter. You really don't want to hear the audio. I'm sorry, people. This is how he records shit. Oh. No, you don't. That's clearly like hasn't been used in years. Okay, maybe it'll look better if I minimize this. That's his. Oh no, that's the kitchen. Look at this. Okay, look at that. See, he's leaving the tree up. For those of you who don't get live Christmas trees because you don't live in Canada, trees dry out and then they become basically explosives. If you don't get rid of them once you're done Christmas, then those things will take your entire house out. That's all junk that him and his mother had. Look at that. Okay, I can't look at this anymore. So the Chandler family also has dozens of animals. None of the cats are housebroken. None of the dogs are housebroken. The cats and dogs piss and shit everywhere. ChrisChan frequently falls into the piss and shit as he walks through the narrow pathways that are throughout his house. And Bob, his father, wound up dying from bug bites because the house is infested with bugs because of how dirty it is. And that is kind of what his daily life is. He gets up at about noon, he plays video games, he drinks a 2-liter, he goes to McDonald's or Burger King, he probably shits himself a couple times, he changes diapers. There's no indication that he cleans himself at all. He sprays himself with Morax body spray. That is the life of a professional NEET. Autism, pornography, bathing, having no personal hygiene, etc. ChrisChan's body is actually deformed. His skin is like sickly pale because he never goes outside. His arms are not only unmuscular, but they've degenerated to the point where they're just skin and bones because he can barely walk anymore. And he's quite fat. He's not morbidly obese quite yet, which indicates a fast metabolism, but it's going to go eventually. That is the life of a professional NEET.